Jamal walked into his new school with his head high but his heart beating fast. It was his first day, and he was the only black student in the hallway. Everyone stared at him as he walked by. Some whispered to each other. Others just looked with wide eyes. Jamal had been the new kid many times before. His dad was in the army, so they moved a lot. Room 203. Where is it? Jamal mumbled to himself as he looked at his schedule. The bell rang, and students rushed to class. No one offered to help him. Jamal sighed and kept walking, looking at the room members. When he finally found his classroom, he was late. Everyone turned to look at him when he opened the door. "You must be Jamal Wilson." The teacher, Mrs. Parker, said with a smile. "Come in and take a seat." The only empty desk was in the back corner. Jamal walked to it, feeling everyone watching him. He sat down and took out his notebook. "Hey, chocolate boy," a voice whispered from beside him. Jamal turned to see a tall white boy with blonde hair grinning at him. The boy's name was Brad. Two other boys sat nearby, laughing quietly. Jamal ignored them and faced forward. He had dealt with bullies before. His dad always told him to walk away from trouble. After class, Jamal tried to leave quickly, but the three boys blocked his way. "I'm Brad. This is Tyler and Connor," the blonde boy said, pointing to his friends. "You're sitting at our table at lunch. We need to talk to the new kid." Jamal nodded but said nothing. He didn't want trouble on his first day. At lunch, Jamal found the cafeteria and got his food. He looked for an empty table, but Brad waved him over. With a deep breath, Jamal walked to their table and sat down. "So, where you from?" Brad asked, looking at Jamal's food. "Georgia, most recently," Jamal said quietly. "My dad is in the army. We move a lot." "Army brat, huh?" Tyler laughed. "Your dad teach you how to fight?" Jamal just shrugged. What they didn't know was that Jamal's father was not just any soldier. He was a former boxing champion in the army, and he had taught Jamal how to box since he was 6 years old. Jamal had also learned other fighting styles over the years, but he never told people about this. He never showed off. "Not much of a talker," Connor said, grabbing Jamal's chocolate milk. "I'll take this." Jamal let it go. It was just milk. "What's in your backpack?" Brad asked, reaching for Jamal's bag. "Just books," Jamal said, pulling his bag closer. Brad's eyes narrowed. "When I want something, I take it," he said, grabbing the bag harder. Jamal held onto his bag. "Please let go," he said calmly. "Make me," Brad challenged, pulling the bag. The cafeteria got quiet. Everyone was watching now. "I don't want trouble," Jamal said, his voice still calm. "Just let go of my bag." Brad laughed and pulled harder. "What are you going to do about it, new boy?" Jamal looked Brad in the eyes. For a moment, something flashed in Jamal's gaze, something cold and hard that made Brad pause. But then Brad grinned again and yanked the bag. The strap broke, and Brad fell backward, the bag in his hands. He laughed and opened it, dumping Jamal's books on the floor. Jamal stood up slowly. His hands were steady. His face showed no anger, but everyone in the cafeteria felt something change in the air. "Pick them up," Jamal said quietly. Brad laughed. "Or what?" "Pick them up." Each word was like a stone dropping into still water. Brad stood up, still smiling, but less sure now. "You don't tell me what to do," he said, pushing Jamal's chest. Jamal didn't move. It was like pushing a wall. "Last chance," Jamal said. "Pick up my books and give me back my bag." The whole cafeteria held its breath. No one had ever stood up to Brad and his friends before. Brad's face turned red. "You're dead, new kid," he whispered, pulling back his fist to throw a punch. Brad's fist flew toward Jamal's face. Everyone in the cafeteria gasped, but the punch never landed. In one smooth move, Jamal stepped to the side. Brad's fist hit only air. Jamal grabbed Brad's arm and twisted it gently behind his back. Brad was now stuck, his face showing surprise and pain. "I said pick up my books," Jamal whispered in Brad's ear. His voice was still calm, almost friendly, but there was steel in it now. Tyler and Connor jumped up from their seats. They rushed at Jamal from both sides. Jamal pushed Brad forward into Tyler. The two boys crashed into each other and fell to the floor. Then Jamal turned to face Connor. Connor threw a wild punch. Jamal blocked it easily and pushed Connor back with one hand. Connor stumbled but didn't fall. "You're dead," Connor yelled, charging at Jamal again. This time, Jamal moved like lightning. He stepped forward, not back. His right hand shot out and caught Connor's shirt. His foot swept behind Connor's legs. In one quick move, Connor was on his back on the hard floor, staring up at the ceiling, gasping for breath. The cafeteria was silent. No one had ever seen anyone move like that before. Brad and Tyler were getting up now, but they moved more slowly, more carefully. 3 against 1 isn't fair," Jamal said, looking around at the silent students watching them. "But I'm used to that." Brad's face was red with anger and shame. "You got lucky," he said, but his voice shook. "Pick up my books," Jamal said again. "And we can forget this happened. What's going on here?" A loud voice boomed across the cafeteria. Everyone turned to see Mr. Jenkins, the vice principal, walking toward them with quick steps. "Nothing, sir," Brad said quickly. He bent down and started picking up Jamal's books. Tyler and Connor helped him, just helping the new kid with his books. They fell. Mr. Jenkins looked at Jamal. "Is that true, young man?" Jamal looked at Brad, then at Mr. Jenkins. "Yes, sir, they're helping me." Mr. Jenkins didn't look like he believed them, but he nodded. "Lunch is almost over. Everyone finish up and get to class." As Mr. Jenkins walked away, Brad handed Jamal his books and broken bag. "This isn't over," Brad whispered, but his eyes didn't meet Jamal's. "Yes, it is," Jamal said firmly, "unless you want more." The bell rang. Students hurried to their next classes, talking excitedly about what they had seen. Jamal sat in his next class, trying to fix his bag. A girl with curly brown hair sat next to him. "That was amazing," she said. "No one stands up to Brad and his friends." Jamal shrugged. "I don't like bullies." "I'm Lisa," the girl said, smiling. "Where did you learn to move like that?" "My dad taught me," Jamal said. "He was a boxer in the army. And I've trained in other fighting styles too. But I don't like to fight." "Could have fooled me," Lisa laughed. "You took down all 3 of them in seconds." "I didn't hurt them," Jamal pointed out. "I just stopped them." Throughout the day, other students came up to Jamal. Some wanted to talk about the fight. Others just wanted to meet the boy who had stood up to Brad. Jamal was polite but quiet. He didn't want to be famous for fighting. After school, Jamal walked to the bus alone. But Brad and his friends were waiting by the buses. "You embarrassed us," Brad said, his voice low and angry. "Nobody does that." Jamal sighed. "Look, I don't want trouble. Let's just leave each other alone." "Too late for that," Tyler said. He was holding something in his hand. It looked like a lock on a chain. Students gathered around, sensing another fight coming. Jamal set down his books carefully. 3 on 1 again?" he asked. "You didn't learn from lunch." "We weren't ready then," Connor said. "Now we are." Jamal shook his head. "I'm giving you one last chance to walk away." The 3 boys laughed. They started to circle around Jamal like wolves around prey. But Jamal didn't look scared. He looked ready. The 3 bullies closed in on Jamal. Tyler swung the lock on a chain. Connor pulled out brass knuckles from his pocket. Brad just made fists, his eyes full of hate. A circle of students formed around them. Some looked worried. Others were excited to see another fight. No one stepped in to help. "Last warning," Jamal said. His voice was quiet but clear. "Walk away now." Brad laughed. Get him. Tyler swung the chain at Jamal's head. Connor rushed in from the other side. Brad charged straight at him. What happened next was so fast that many students later argued about what they saw. Jamal moved like water, flowing between the attacks. He ducked under the chain, sidestepped Connor, and met Brad head-on. Jamal caught Brad's punch in his open hand. Then he twisted Brad's arm and turned him around like a human shield. Tyler's chain hit Brad instead of Jamal. Brad yelled in pain. Jamal pushed Brad into Tyler. Both boys fell down. Connor stood frozen, not sure what to do. "Drop the brass knuckles," Jamal told Connor. "You'll hurt yourself more than me with those." Connor's face turned red with anger. He rushed at Jamal, swinging wildly. Jamal blocked the first punch. The second punch missed. The third never came because Jamal hit Connor with a perfect jab to the chest. Connor gasped and fell to his knees, struggling to breathe. "I told you to walk away," Jamal said. Tyler was up again, swinging the chain, but Jamal was ready. He caught the chain and pulled hard. Tyler, not expecting this, flew forward. Jamal stepped aside, and Tyler crashed face first into a parked car. Brad was the only one left standing. He looked at his fallen friends, then at Jamal. For the first time, there was fear in his eyes. What are you?" Brad asked. "Just a kid who's tired of bullies," Jamal answered. Suddenly, a loud whistle cut through the air. Everyone turned to see Coach Wilson running toward them. Break it up now," the coach yelled. The crowd of students scattered. Brad helped Connor up. Tyler was holding his bloody nose. Coach Wilson looked at the scene and frowned. "Principal's office. All 4 of you. Now." In Principal Garcia's office, Brad, Tyler, and Connor sat on one side. Jamal sat on the other. All 4 boys were silent as Principal Garcia looked at them over her glasses. 3 students in the nurse's office, a damaged car in the parking lot, and reports of weapons, she said sternly. "Explain." Brad spoke first. "The new kid attacked us." Jamal said nothing. He just looked at Principal Garcia calmly. "That's not what other students are saying," the principal said. "And the security cameras don't lie." She turned her computer screen around. On it was a video of the whole fight, showing clearly that the 3 boys had attacked Jamal first. "You brought weapons to school," Principal Garcia said to Tyler and Connor. "That's grounds for expulsion." Tyler and Connor looked down at the floor. "And you," she said to Brad, "have been warned before about bullying." Brad's face was pale now. Principal Garcia turned to Jamal. "You defended yourself, but your fighting skills are concerning. Where did you learn to fight like that?" "My father taught me," Jamal said. "He was a champion boxer in the army, and I've trained in martial arts since I was little, but I never start fights. I just finish them." The principal nodded slowly. "I'm calling all your parents, and you 3, she pointed to Brad and his friends, are suspended for 2 weeks. When you come back, you'll be in separate classes." She looked at Jamal again. "As for you, young man, I'm not punishing you this time, but we need to talk about better ways to handle conflict." After the others left, Principal Garcia spoke to Jamal alone. "Those 3 have bullied many students here," she said. "No one stood up to them before. But I can't have fighting in my school, even in self-defense." "I understand," Jamal said. The principal studied him for a moment. "We have a boxing club that needs an assistant coach. Coach Wilson runs it. With your skills, you could help other students learn self-defense properly. Would you be interested?" Jamal smiled for the first time that day. "Yes, Mom. I'd like that." When Jamal walked out of the office, Lisa was waiting for him. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," Jamal said, "and I think things will be better now." A week passed since the fight. The school felt different without Brad, Tyler, and Connor around. Students walked the halls more freely. They laughed more. No one had to watch their backs. Jamal started helping Coach Wilson with the boxing club after school. Many students joined, more than ever before. They all wanted to learn from the new kid who had defeated the 3 worst bullies in school. Remember, Jamal told the students as they practiced punches, fighting is the last choice, not the first. We train to be strong so we don't have to prove it. Lisa came to watch every day. She and Jamal had become good friends. She was smart and funny, and she didn't treat Jamal like he was just the kid who could fight. "My dad's coming home this weekend," Jamal told Lisa as they walked home one day. "He's been away on a military training mission. Is he as good at fighting as you?" Lisa asked. Jamal laughed. "Better. Much better. Everything I know, he taught me." On Friday after school, Jamal saw a tall, strong man waiting by the front gate. His face lit up. "Dad," he called, running to the man. Sergeant Wilson hugged his son tight. "How's the new school, son?" Before Jamal could answer, Coach Wilson came out and saw them. "Are you Jamal's father?" the coach asked, walking over. "Yes, sir. Sergeant Marcus Wilson," Jamal's dad said, shaking the coach's hand. "Your son is quite the fighter," Coach Wilson said. "He's been a great help with our boxing club." Sergeant Wilson looked at Jamal with raised eyebrows. "Has he now? I thought we agreed you would keep a low profile at new schools." Jamal looked down. "I tried, Dad, but there were these bullies." "Let's talk at home," his father said. Later that evening, Jamal told his father everything that had happened. He showed him the mended backpack with the broken strap. "I didn't start it, Dad. I promise. I walked away the first time, but they came after me with weapons." Sergeant Wilson listened quietly. When Jamal finished, he nodded slowly. "You did what you had to do. I'm not angry," he said, "but fighting brings attention, and attention can bring trouble." "What kind of trouble?" Jamal asked. His father sighed. "People fear what they don't understand, and when they see a black boy who can fight like you can." He didn't finish. Jamal understood. It wasn't fair, but it was real. On Monday, Jamal was at his locker when he heard whispers in the hall. He turned and saw Brad's father walking with Principal Garcia. The man was tall and angry-looking. He kept pointing at Jamal as they talked. Lisa hurried over to Jamal. "That's Brad's dad. He's on the school board. He's been telling people you're dangerous and should be expelled." Jamal's heart sank. He had seen this before at other schools. He had hoped this time would be different. Principal Garcia and Brad's father stopped near Jamal. "That's him," Brad's father said loudly. "That's the boy who attacked my son and his friends." Students in the hall stopped to watch. Some looked worried for Jamal. Others seemed unsure. "Mr. Reynolds," Principal Garcia said firmly, "we have video evidence that your son and his friends attacked Jamal first. They brought weapons to school." "Boys will be boys," Mr. Reynolds said dismissively. "But this kid is trained to fight. He's dangerous." Jamal stood tall, though his hands were shaking a little. "I only defended myself, sir," he said politely. Mr. Reynolds glared at him. "The school board will hear about this. We don't need your kind of trouble here." "What kind would that be, Mr. Reynolds?" a deep voice asked from behind them. Everyone turned to see Sergeant Wilson in his full military uniform. He walked up and stood beside his son. "I'm Sergeant Marcus Wilson, Jamal's father," he said. His voice was calm but powerful. "What exactly is my son's kind of trouble?" Mr. Reynolds looked at the decorated soldier and seemed to shrink a little. I just meant that trained fighters can be dangerous in a school setting," he stammered. "My son has been trained to control himself, not just his fists," Sergeant Wilson said. "Unlike some others, it seems." The bell rang for class. Students slowly moved away, still watching. Principal Garcia looked relieved to see Jamal's father. "Sergeant Wilson, perhaps we could all talk in my office." "Gladly," Sergeant Wilson said. "Jamal, go to class. I'll handle this." For the first time since the fight, Jamal felt truly safe. Jamal sat in class. But he couldn't focus. He kept thinking about his dad meeting with Principal Garcia and Mr. Reynolds. What would happen? Would he have to leave this school too? Just when he was starting to make friends. When the bell rang for lunch, Jamal rushed to the principal's office. The door was open. Inside, he saw his father shaking hands with Principal Garcia. Mr. Reynolds was nowhere to be seen. "Ah, Jamal." Principal Garcia smiled. "Please come in. We were just finishing up." Jamal entered slowly. "Is everything okay?" His father nodded. "Everything's fine, son. We've cleared things up." Principal Garcia stood up. "Your father explained your background in martial arts. He also suggested something interesting that I think could help our school." Jamal looked at his dad, confused. "I proposed that you and I could start a proper self-defense class," Sergeant Wilson explained, "open to all students, teaching not just fighting skills, but discipline, respect, and when not to fight." The school board already approved it by phone vote, Principal Garcia added. Even Mr. Reynolds voted yes in the end. Jamal was shocked. Really? What changed his mind? His father smiled. "Let's just say I helped him see things differently. I showed him some videos of you in martial arts competitions, how you always bow to opponents, how you never use more force than needed. I explained that martial arts is about control, not violence." "We'll start next week," Principal Garcia said. "It will be an official school program. Sergeant Wilson will come in twice a week when he's not on duty." As they walked home, Jamal looked at his father. "How did you really convince Mr. Reynolds?" Sergeant Wilson laughed. "I reminded him that I served with his brother in Iraq, and that his brother told me all about Brad's bullying problems. I suggested that Brad might benefit from learning real discipline in our class." The next day at school, everyone was talking about the new self-defense program. Many students signed up right away. Lisa was the first to put her name on the list. "I've wanted to learn self-defense for years," she told Jamal. "My mom never let me because she thought it was too violent. But when I told her a military officer would be teaching, she said yes." A week later, the 3 bullies returned from their suspension. They looked different now, less confident. They kept away from Jamal. Brad especially seemed to avoid eye contact with everyone. After school, Jamal was surprised to see Brad walking toward the gym, where the first self-defense class would be held. "Are you coming to the class?" Jamal asked. Brad stopped and looked down. "My dad says I have to. Part of my punishment." He paused. "Your dad is really impressive. He talked to me yesterday. He didn't yell or anything, just talked." Jamal nodded. "That's my dad. He believes everyone deserves a second chance." Brad finally looked up. "I'm sorry about your backpack, and for everything else." Before Jamal could answer, they heard Sergeant Wilson's voice calling everyone into the gym. The class was bigger than anyone expected. Nearly 40 students showed up, boys and girls of all grades. They sat in a circle on the gym floor. Sergeant Wilson and Jamal stood in the center. "Welcome to your first self-defense class," Sergeant Wilson said. "Before we learn any moves, we need to learn the most important rule. With great power comes great responsibility." He looked around the circle. "Each of you will learn how to defend yourselves here. But if I ever hear that anyone used these skills to bully or hurt others, you're out of the program. No second chances on that." He pointed to Jamal. "My son learned this the hard way once. Tell them, Jamal." Jamal took a deep breath. "When I was 10, a kid kept picking on me at school. One day, I got tired of it and used my training to flip him onto the ground. I didn't hurt him badly, but I scared him. My dad made me apologize to the boy and his parents. Then he didn't let me train for 6 months." 6 months, Sergeant Wilson repeated. "Because training isn't about hurting others. It's about building yourself up so you don't need to hurt others." Brad raised his hand slowly, "Even if someone deserves it." Sergeant Wilson looked straight at Brad. "No one deserves to be hurt, son. Sometimes we need to stop people from hurting us or others. But there's a difference between protection and revenge. Jamal watched Brad take in these words. For the first time, he saw something change in Brad's eyes, something like understanding. The first class began with basic stances and breathing exercises. Nothing flashy, nothing violent, just control and focus. A month passed. The self-defense classes changed things at school. Students walked taller. They spoke up more. Even the quietest kids found their voices. Brad surprised everyone by becoming one of the best students in the class. He worked harder than anyone, staying late to practice moves. He and Jamal weren't exactly friends, but they weren't enemies anymore either. One Tuesday after class, Brad stayed behind as everyone else left. "Can I ask you something?" he said to Jamal, looking uncomfortable. "Sure," Jamal said, wiping sweat from his face with a towel. "Why didn't you hurt us that day?" "You could have. You had every right to." Jamal thought about it. "Because hurting you wouldn't have fixed anything. It would have just made more problems." Brad nodded slowly. "My dad used to tell me that I had to be tough. That if someone pushes you, you push back harder. That's what I was doing to other kids. What he does to people who work for him." "And how's that working out?" Jamal asked. Brad gave a small laugh. "Not great. Everyone either hates me or fears me. No real friends." He paused. "But your dad is tough too. I can tell. He was a soldier, a fighter. But he's not mean like my dad. My dad says real strength is being able to hurt someone but choosing not to," Jamal said. "Anyone can lash out. It takes more strength to hold back." The next day, something strange happened at lunch. Brad sat down at Jamal and Lisa's table. "Is it okay if I sit here?" he asked nervously. Lisa frowned. She hadn't forgiven Brad for years of bullying. "It's okay," Jamal said. "Sit down." They ate in awkward silence for a few minutes. "Tyler and Connor are mad at me," Brad finally said. "They say I've changed, that I'm soft now." "And what do you think?" Lisa asked. Brad looked down at his food. "I think maybe I was wrong before. About a lot of things." After lunch, Jamal saw Tyler and Connor cornering a younger student by the lockers. The boy looked scared. "Hey," Jamal called out. "Leave him alone." Tyler and Connor turned around. Their faces hardened when they saw Jamal. "Mind your own business, fighting boy," Tyler sneered. Jamal walked closer. "I said leave him alone." Connor pushed the younger boy aside and stepped toward Jamal. "You think you're so special now. Teacher's pet. Principal's favorite." "I don't want trouble," Jamal said calmly. "Too bad," Tyler said. He pulled back his fist. But before he could swing, a hand caught his arm. It was Brad. "Don't," Brad said firmly. "It's over, Tyler. We're not doing this anymore." Tyler pulled his arm free, shock on his face. "What's wrong with you? You're taking his side now." "I'm not taking sides," Brad said. "I'm just done bullying people." Connor laughed. "Listen to yourself. You sound like a wimp." Brad shook his head. "No, for the first time, I'm not being a wimp. A wimp is someone who picks on people weaker than him because he's afraid." A crowd was gathering now. Students watched with wide eyes. "You two can keep being bullies if you want," Brad continued. "But I'm done. And I won't let you hurt anyone else either." Tyler's face turned red with anger. "You're going to regret this," he said. Then he and Connor walked away, pushing through the crowd. The younger boy looked at Brad with surprise. "Thanks," he said quietly. Brad just nodded, looking uncomfortable with the thanks. That afternoon at self-defense class, Sergeant Wilson had everyone pair up for practice. Brad and Jamal ended up together. "I heard what happened today," Jamal said as they practiced blocking moves. "That was brave, standing up to your friends." "Ex-friends," Brad corrected. "And I don't feel brave. I feel weird, like I don't know who I am anymore." "That's normal," Jamal said. "My dad says that changing yourself is the hardest fight there is." After class, Sergeant Wilson called Brad over. They talked quietly in the corner of the gym. Brad nodded several times, his face serious. When they finished, Brad walked over to Jamal. "Your dad just invited me to join you guys for dinner tomorrow," he said, sounding surprised. "He says he wants to talk to me about maybe becoming a junior instructor when I get better at the moves." Jamal smiled. "That sounds like my dad. He sees something in you." "What about you?" Brad asked. "After everything I did." Jamal looked at Brad for a long moment. "I think people can change. I've seen it before. And I've seen it in you." For the first time since they'd met, Brad smiled a real smile. The dinner at Jamal's house was awkward at first. Brad sat stiffly at the table, saying "yes, sir," and "no, sir" to Sergeant Wilson. Jamal's mother, Mrs. Wilson, was kind but quiet. She watched Brad closely. After dinner, Sergeant Wilson took Brad and Jamal to the backyard. There was a small training area with mats on the ground and a punching bag hanging from the big oak tree. "This is where I trained Jamal since he was 6, Sergeant Wilson said. "Every morning before school. Every evening after homework." Brad looked around with wide eyes. "Every day." "Every day," Jamal confirmed. "Even in the rain. My dad would hold an umbrella while I practiced kicks." Sergeant Wilson laughed. "Those were the days." Then his face grew serious. "Brad, I've been watching you in class. You have talent. Raw, but real." Brad looked down. "My father always said I was too soft." "Soft isn't bad," Sergeant Wilson said. "Water is soft, but it can wear down mountains given enough time." He walked to the punching bag. "Hit it as hard as you can." Brad hit the bag. It moved a little. "Now you, Jamal." Jamal stepped forward and hit the bag with perfect form. The bag swung wildly. "See the difference?" Sergeant Wilson asked Brad. "It's not about being hard or soft. It's about channeling what you have in the right way." For the next hour, he taught Brad how to stand, how to breathe, how to focus his energy. By the end, Brad's punches were stronger, cleaner. "You could be very good with practice," Sergeant Wilson told him. "I'd like to train you and Jamal together. Twice a week, if that's okay with your father." Brad's face fell. "My dad, he won't like me spending time here." Sergeant Wilson put a hand on Brad's shoulder. "Let me talk to him, man to man." The next day at school, Tyler and Connor were waiting for Brad by his locker. "Heard you had dinner at your new black friend's house," Tyler said, his voice full of hate. "What would your dad say about that?" Brad took a deep breath. "Leave me alone, Tyler." "You're pathetic," Connor spat. "You used to run this school with us." "And what did that get us?" Brad asked. "People hated us. We hurt others to feel strong. That's not strength." Tyler pushed Brad hard against the lockers. "You think you're better than us now." "No," Brad said calmly. "I'm just trying to be better than I was." Tyler pulled back his fist, but before he could throw a punch, Lisa stepped between them. "Back off, Tyler," she said firmly. "A teacher is coming." Tyler looked over his shoulder nervously. There was no teacher, but he didn't know that. "This isn't over," he growled, and walked away with Connor. "Thanks," Brad said to Lisa. "I didn't do it for you," she said coldly. "I did it because Jamal sees something good in you, and I trust his judgment." After school, Brad, Jamal, and Lisa walked to the bus together. They saw a crowd gathered in the parking lot. "What's going on?" Jamal asked a girl who was watching. "It's Tyler and Connor," she said. "They're picking on some kid from the middle school. His big brother goes to East High, and he's here with his friends. Looks like there's going to be a fight." The three of them pushed through the crowd. In the center was a small boy, maybe 12 years old, surrounded by Tyler and Connor. Behind them stood 3 older boys wearing East High jackets. "Give him back his phone," one of the older boys demanded. "Make us," Tyler challenged, holding up a phone. The East High boys moved forward. They were bigger than Tyler and Connor. and they looked angry. "Stop," Jamal called out, stepping into the circle. "No one needs to fight." "Stay out of this," one of the East High boys said. "These two took my brother's phone and pushed him around. They're going to pay." "Fighting won't solve anything," Jamal said calmly. "It will just get everyone in trouble." "He's right," Brad said, stepping up beside Jamal. He turned to Tyler. "Give the kid his phone back. Now." Tyler looked at Brad with disgust. "Or what? You'll tell your new daddy, the big bad soldier." Something changed in Brad's face. Not anger, but determination. "No, I'll take it from you myself." Tyler laughed. "You and what army?" "He has me," Jamal said, standing shoulder to shoulder with Brad. "And me," Lisa added, joining them. Other students began to step forward. Kids who had once been afraid of Tyler and Connor now found their courage. "This is stupid," Connor said to Tyler. "Let's just give the phone back." Tyler looked around. He was outnumbered. His face twisted with anger, but he threw the phone on the ground. "Fine, it's a stupid phone anyway," he said. Then he and Connor pushed their way through the crowd and left. The small boy picked up his phone. His older brother put an arm around him. "Thanks," the brother said to Jamal and Brad. "That was cool what you did." As the crowd broke up, Brad turned to Jamal. "That felt good. Really good. That's what standing up for the right thing feels like," Jamal said.